Grand Admiral Thexler stood on the bridge of the Eternal Supremacy and looked at the small blue planet on the main screen. His silver skin reflected the soft lights of the control panels around him. He had done this 846 times before. Another primitive world, another easy conquest, another number added to the Great Dominion's endless list of victories. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of sensors and the whisper of air through the vents. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. They barely looked up anymore. This was routine. Boring even. The Dominion had been expanding for 3,000 years. They had perfected the art of conquest long ago. "Report," Thexler said, his voice flat with disinterest. Commander Veshka, his second-in-command, touched her console. Data flowed across the screens. The planet is called Earth by its inhabitants. Population approximately 8 billion. Technology level, early nuclear age. Political structure, fragmented into 195 separate nations. Current status, multiple active conflicts between various groups. Thexler's eyes narrowed slightly. They fight each other? Yes, Admiral. Our sensors detect 43 separate armed conflicts currently in progress. Small scale, mostly. Regional disputes over resources, territory, and belief systems. The Admiral waved his hand dismissively. Typical primitive behavior. They will unite quickly enough when we arrive. Fear is an excellent motivator. He had seen it countless times. Species that fought among themselves always came together when facing an outside threat. It never mattered. Unity without technology was still weakness. Scholar Mevrin approached from her station at the back of the bridge. She was the fleet's chief xenoanthropologist, responsible for understanding the cultures they conquered. Her blue robes marked her as a civilian, an academic among warriors. "Admiral, I request permission to conduct a deeper cultural analysis before we proceed." Thexler turned to look at her. His face showed mild annoyance. "Scholar, we have protocols. Analysis warning conquest. We have conquered 846 worlds following these exact steps. What makes this one special?" Mevrin hesitated. She pulled up data on her handheld device. Initial surveys show unusual patterns in their history. The frequency of warfare is abnormally high, even for a primitive species. "All primitives fight," the Admiral said. "That is why they need the Dominion to bring them peace and order." "Yes, Admiral, but proceed with standard protocol, Scholar. Send the warning. Begin the survey. Prepare landing forces." Thexler turned back to the main screen. Another world. Another day. Another footnote in the great history of the Dominion. Mevrin bowed her head and returned to her station. She felt a strange unease in her chest, but she pushed it away. The Admiral was right. They had done this 846 times. This would be 847. The communications officer, a young recruit named Tixal, worked at his console. "Preparing first contact message, Admiral. Standard format. Translating into primary Earth languages." "How many languages do they have?" Commander Veshka asked. Tixal checked his screen. His eyes widened. "Approximately 7,000, Commander. 47 major languages with over 10 million speakers each." Several officers looked up from their stations. That was unusual. Most species had one or two primary languages by the time they reached this technology level. "Use the top 50 languages," Thexler ordered. "Make sure every major population center receives the message. Standard text. Identify ourselves, state our superiority, demand their surrender, promise peace under our rule. Give them 48 hours to respond." "Yes, Admiral." Tixal's fingers moved quickly across his console. The message was prepared, translated, and transmitted. It spread across Earth's primitive communication networks. Radio waves carried the Dominion's ultimatum to billions of humans below. The bridge settled back into quiet routine. Officers monitored Earth's communication channels. They listened to the chaos as humanity discovered they were not alone in the universe. Fear, panic, denial, arguments, the usual responses. Thexler sat in his command chair and reviewed the data on his personal screen. Earth was rich in resources. Water, minerals, diverse biology. The humans would make adequate workers once properly trained and integrated into Dominion society. Their genetic diversity might even provide useful traits for the Empire's genetic archives. A valuable addition if unremarkable. Hours passed. The Dominion fleet waited in the darkness beyond Earth's moon. Their ships hung in space like sleeping giants, dark and patient. On Earth below, humanity scrambled to respond. Their governments argued. Their militaries mobilized. Their people prayed, or screamed, or went about their days pretending nothing had changed. 36 hours after the initial message, Tixal straightened at his console. "Admiral, we have a response." "Already?" Thexler raised an eyebrow. Most species took the full 48 hours, trying desperately to find some way out of their situation. "What do they say?" "Unconditional surrender?" "No, Admiral. It is short." Tixal transferred the message to the main screen. The text appeared in 47 languages simultaneously, each translation precise and clear. Thexler read the Dominion Standard Version. "We acknowledge your superior technology and numbers. Before you proceed, understand one thing about humanity. We have never in our entire history lived in peace. Approach with caution." The bridge fell silent. Commander Veshka stared at the screen. "Is this a threat?" "It reads more like a warning," Mevrin said quietly from her station. "A genuine warning." Thexler felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. Not fear. The Dominion did not know fear. But something else. Curiosity, perhaps. Or the faint shadow of doubt. He pushed it aside. "They warn us?" He laughed, and several officers joined him. The sound echoed through the bridge. "They have nuclear weapons and chemical rockets. We have fusion drives and particle beams. They warn us?" But Mevrin did not laugh. She stared at her screen, scrolling through preliminary data on human history. Her blue skin had gone pale. "Admiral, I request permission to delay invasion until I complete my cultural analysis." "Denied, Scholar. We have 8 other worlds waiting for our attention. We cannot pause our expansion because primitives make dramatic statements." Thexelor stood from his chair. "Begin invasion protocols. Landing forces will deploy in 12 hours. We will show them what happens when children threaten giants." The bridge returned to activity. Officers began preparations for invasion. Troops were readied. Weapons were armed. Ships moved into position. The great machine of Dominion conquest began its familiar, well-practiced movements. But Mevrin remained at her station, scrolling through data on human history. Wars. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. Weapons that evolved from sharpened stones to world-ending bombs in just 10,000 years. Civilizations that rose through conquest and fell through conquest and rose again, always fighting, always adapting, always surviving. Her hands shook slightly as she typed her preliminary report. At the end, she added a single line in red text, marking it as urgent. "Recommend extreme caution. This species may be fundamentally different from all previous conquests." She submitted the report and knew the Admiral would not read it until after the invasion began. That was protocol. Action first, analysis later. It had always worked before. Mevrin looked at the blue planet on the main screen and felt the unease in her chest grow stronger. The humans had warned them. In clear, simple language, without pride or bluster, they had warned them. She wondered if anyone was listening. Mevrin had not slept in 30 hours. Her eyes burned as she stared at her screens, but she could not look away. The data kept coming, and with each new piece of information, her concern grew into something darker. Something like dread. Around her, the research bay was quiet. Most of her team had gone to rest before the invasion began. They saw no reason to worry. Standard conquest. Standard analysis. They would have months to study human culture after the surrender. But Mevrin could not rest. The warning kept echoing in her mind. We have never in our entire history lived in peace. She had thought it was exaggeration at first. Primitive species often made grand claims about their strength or courage. It was posturing, nothing more. But the data told a different story. A horrifying story. Her console showed a timeline of human history stretching back 10,000 years. Red markers indicated conflicts, wars, battles, genocides. The screen was almost entirely red. In 10,000 years of recorded history, there was not a single decade without war somewhere on Earth. Not one. "Impossible," she whispered. But the data did not lie. She pulled up details on what humans called the World Wars. 2 massive conflicts in the span of just 30 years. The first killed 17 million people. Humans learned from it, adapted, and then did it again just 20 years later. The second killed over 60 million. 60 million deaths, and Earth's population had still grown. Mevrin felt sick. The Dominion had fought 3 major wars in its 3,000-year history. 3 wars that had nearly broken their civilization each time. That was why they conquered now instead of fighting. Peace through overwhelming force. No conflict meant no casualties. It was logical. It was civilized. But humans fought constantly. They fought over land, over resources, over ideas, over gods that might not even exist. They fought their neighbors and themselves. They had weapons to destroy their entire planet. And they had come within minutes of using them multiple times. Yet they were still here, still fighting, still growing. She opened another file. Human weapons development. The progression made her hands shake. Sharpened stones became bronze spears. Bronze became iron, iron became steel. Bows became crossbows, became guns, became automatic weapons. Explosives became artillery, became missiles, became nuclear bombs. Each innovation designed for one purpose: to kill other humans more efficiently. They evolved through war, she said aloud to the empty room. The words sounded insane, but the evidence was clear. Every major technological advancement in human history came during or shortly after a major conflict. Medicine, communications, manufacturing, transportation. War drove them forward. Peace was just preparation for the next war. Mevrin pulled up cultural data. Art, literature, philosophy. So much of it focused on war. Humans wrote songs about battles from thousands of years ago. They built monuments to their wars. They taught their children about great military leaders the way the Dominion taught about great scientists and philosophers. War was not just something humans did. It was woven into everything they were. Her console beeped. A message from Commander Veshka. Scholar, your presence is requested on the bridge. Admiral Thexler wants your initial assessment before invasion begins. Mevrin gathered her data files and made her way through the ship's corridors. Crew members passed her. Excited chatter about the coming invasion. Easy victory. Quick surrender. Home in a few months. None of them had read her reports. None of them understood what they were about to face. The bridge doors opened. Admiral Thexler stood at the main screen, watching troop carriers move into position around Earth. He turned as she entered. Scholar Mevrin. Your assessment? She activated her datapad and transferred her files to the main screen. The bridge crew stopped their work to watch. Charts and graphs appeared showing human history in stark detail. Admiral, I must formally recommend we delay this invasion pending further study. The humans are different. Thexler's expression remained neutral. Different how? They are a warrior species, Admiral. Not like the Kethra or the Vox who fight for survival. Humans fight because it is fundamental to their nature. In 10,000 years of recorded history, they have never stopped fighting. Not once. Primitive species always fight among themselves, Commander Veshka said. They lack the wisdom for peace. That is why they need us. No, Commander. You misunderstand. Mevrin changed the display to show casualty statistics. Humans fight during times of plenty. They fight when resources are abundant. They fight their own family members over abstract concepts. They have fought wars that killed significant portions of their population, and then recovered and grown stronger. War is not something that happens to them. It is something they do. Constantly. Creatively. Enthusiastically. The bridge was quiet. Officers exchanged glances. Several looked uncomfortable. Thexler studied the data with narrowed eyes. Their weapons development, Mevrin continued, bringing up another chart. From stone tools to nuclear weapons in 10,000 years. Admiral, it took the Dominion 40,000 years to reach nuclear technology. Humans did it in 1/4 the time, and they did it while fighting constant wars that should have destroyed their civilization dozens of times. They are still primitive, Thexler said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. Yes, Admiral, they are primitive, but they are primitives who have spent their entire existence preparing for war. Every generation learns from the previous generation's conflicts. They have institutional knowledge of warfare going back millennia. They have written detailed analysis of thousands of battles, studying what worked and what failed. They teach it to their young. They train for war even during peace. She pulled up intercepted human military documents, training manuals, strategic theories, tactical analyses. Look at this, Admiral. This is from a human military academy. They study not just their own wars, but theoretical wars. Wars in space, wars against enemies with superior technology, wars against machines, wars against aliens. They have been thinking about how to fight us since before they knew we existed. The bridge crew stared at the screens. The documents showed detailed scenarios for fighting enemies with energy weapons, with shields, with faster-than-light travel. Humans had imagined it all and planned for it. They cannot possibly defeat us, Commander Veshka said, but she sounded less certain now. Can they defeat us? No, probably not. Can they make conquest so costly that we regret attempting it? I believe so. Mevrin met the Admiral's eyes. Admiral, in my 40 years as a xenoanthropologist, I have studied hundreds of species. I have never seen anything like this. Humans do not just fight to survive. They fight to test themselves, to prove themselves, to unite themselves. War is how they define who they are. Thexler was silent for a long moment. Around the bridge, officers waited for his response. Finally, he spoke. Your concerns are noted, Scholar, but we cannot change our strategy based on speculation. We have superior technology, superior numbers, superior training. The humans may have a violent history, but history means nothing against fusion weapons and energy shields. Admiral, we proceed as planned. Landing forces deploy in 6 hours. If the humans resist more than expected, we will adjust. That is what we do. We adapt, we overcome. We have done it 846 times. Mevrin felt her chest tighten. She had done everything she could. Presented the data. Made her argument. But the Admiral was right about one thing. They had done this 846 times before. Experience was on their side. Perhaps she was overreacting. Perhaps human history did not matter when facing the might of the Dominion. But as she returned to her station, she could not shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. The humans had warned them. In clear, simple language they had said, "We have never lived in peace. Approach with caution." The Dominion was approaching without caution. They were approaching with confidence born from 846 victories. But victories against species who fought to survive, not species who fought because fighting was what they were. Mevrin opened a new file and began typing a formal objection to the Imperial Archives. She had never filed one before. In 40 years of service, she had never felt the need. But she felt it now. Someone needed to remember that they had been warned. Someone needed to document what was about to happen. She titled the document Earth, a Cautionary Tale, and marked it with the highest priority flag. Then she submitted it and watched as it disappeared into the vast bureaucracy of the Dominion government, where it would likely be filed away and forgotten. On the main screen, Earth rotated slowly, blue and white and beautiful, peaceful looking. But Mevrin knew better now. Peace was not absence of war for humans. Peace was just the space between wars. The breath before the next fight. The invasion would begin in 6 hours. Mevrin wondered if 6 hours was enough time for the Admiral to realize his mistake. She doubted it. Some lessons could only be learned the hard way. Earth was about to teach the Dominion a very hard lesson indeed. The first landing craft touched down in the Sahara Desert just after dawn. Thexler watched from the bridge as his forces deployed across 12 strategic locations on Earth. Major cities, military installations, government centers. The plan was simple and proven. Overwhelming force, strategic targets, quick surrender. It had worked 846 times. All units reporting successful deployment, Admiral, Commander Veshka announced. Minimal resistance detected. Human military forces are mobilizing but remain scattered and disorganized. Good. Broadcast the surrender demand again. Make it clear that resistance is futile. Thexler leaned back in his command chair. Perhaps Scholar Mevrin had been wrong after all. Perhaps humans were just like every other primitive species. All threats and no substance. The first engagement happened near a human city called Beijing. Dominion ground forces advanced on a military installation. Human soldiers opened fire with their primitive chemical projectile weapons. The bullets bounced harmlessly off Dominion energy shields. It was almost sad to watch. Like children throwing rocks at a mountain. Target their weapons positions, the ground commander ordered. Non-lethal force. We want prisoners for integration processing. Dominion particle beams struck human positions. Soldiers fell stunned but alive. The human line broke. They retreated into the city. Standard behavior. The ground forces advanced, confident and calm. Then the building exploded. The entire structure came down on the advancing Dominion troops. Rubble and fire consumed the forward squad. 7 soldiers died instantly. 12 more were trapped, injured, and calling for help. The humans had rigged their own building with explosives and detonated it during the retreat. They destroyed their own position, Commander Veshka stared at the tactical display in confusion. That makes no strategic sense. They could have fallen back and regrouped. They traded ground for casualties, Mevrin said quietly from her station. They decided the building was worth 7 of our soldiers. But they lost the building anyway. They were going to lose it regardless. This way they made us pay for it. Mevrin's voice was grim. This is what I tried to warn you about. They think differently about war. Every meter of ground is a transaction. They will spend anything to increase the price. Thexler dismissed her concerns with a wave. 7 casualties in the first engagement, acceptable. We have thousands of troops deployed. This changes nothing. But over the next 3 hours, everything changed. In Moscow, human fighters used the city's underground tunnel system to appear behind Dominion lines. They attacked with chemical weapons, poison gas that seeped through armor joints and killed 4 soldiers before the Dominion could seal their suits. The humans had used weapons banned by their own international laws. In New York, snipers picked off Dominion officers from buildings kilometers away. The weapons should not have had that range or accuracy, but humans modified them, pushing their primitive technology beyond its design limits. 6 commanders died before the Dominion adapted their shield patterns. In Delhi, human soldiers charged a Dominion position in broad daylight, wearing explosive vests. They died, all of them, but they took 23 Dominion soldiers with them. Suicide attacks. The Dominion had no counter-strategy because no civilized species used suicide attacks. Reports flooded in from all 12 invasion sites, ambushes, traps, guerrilla tactics. The humans were not standing and fighting like a proper military force. They hit and ran. They used civilians as shields. They hid weapons in schools and hospitals, knowing the Dominion followed warfare conventions that prohibited attacking such sites. They broke every rule of civilized warfare and did it without hesitation. Casualties? Thexler asked, his voice tight. 147 dead, 309 wounded, 4 vehicles destroyed, 2 landing craft damaged. Commander Veshka read the numbers with disbelief. Admiral, in the first 3 hours we have taken more casualties than in the entire conquest of Vex Prime. How? They have no shields, no energy weapons. Their armor is primitive ceramic plates and fabric. They are not fighting the way we expected, Mevrin said. She pulled up tactical analysis on the main screen. Look at their movements. Every engagement is different. They adapt between battles, a tactic we use successfully in Beijing. They counter in Moscow 20 minutes later. They are learning from each encounter and sharing that information instantly across their entire planet. Impossible. They lack unified command structure. They lack unified government, Admiral. But look at the data. Russian forces are using tactics that worked for Chinese forces. American units are copying strategies from Indian units. They are sharing information across enemy lines. Nations that were at war with each other this morning are coordinating attacks against us this afternoon. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the tactical displays showed the pattern. Humans who had been killing each other for centuries were suddenly working together with seamless coordination. Their shared enemy had done what thousands of years of diplomacy could not. It had united them. A communication came through from the ground forces in Cairo. The commander's voice crackled with static and panic. We have secured the target building, but we are taking heavy fire from all sides. They are using vehicles packed with explosives as weapons. We need air support immediately. Send gunships, Thexler ordered. Admiral, they have anti-aircraft weapons. Primitive but effective at close range. Then engage from high altitude. We have orbital superiority. Use it. The gunships descended and opened fire on human positions around Cairo. Buildings collapsed. Streets burned. But before the gunships could retreat to safe altitude, human jets appeared. Old fighter craft that should have been no threat. They flew directly at the gunships, firing missiles at point-blank range. 2 gunships were destroyed. The human jets did not even try to escape. They just attacked and died, taking Dominion craft with them. They are trading 1 for 1, Commander Veshka said, her voice hollow. Their jets are worth less than our gunships in every metric. Resources, technology, training. But they trade anyway because they have more jets than we have gunships. This is madness, Thexler whispered. No, Admiral. This is warfare. Human warfare. Mevrin pulled up intercepted human communications. Listen to this. A recording played over the bridge speakers. Human voices, calm and steady despite the sounds of battle in the background. Echo Team, this is Command. The aliens are using energy shields that stop small arms fire. Use explosives at close range. Pack the charges tight. It does not matter if you survive. Make every death expensive for them. Another voice. Command, this is Sierra 7. We have visual on their supply convoy. Requesting permission to engage with truck bombs. Permission granted, Sierra 7. Give them hell. The recording ended. The bridge was silent except for the distant sounds of battle from Earth below. Officers stared at their consoles, faces pale. They had never heard anything like it. Commanders ordering soldiers to die, soldiers accepting those orders without question. Entire units sacrificing themselves just to slow the Dominion advance. They are willing to die, one young officer said. All of them. They are all willing to die. They are more than willing, Mevrin corrected. They are eager. Listen to their voices. No fear, no hesitation. They have been taught since birth that dying for their people is honorable. They have songs about it, stories about it, monuments dedicated to those who died in battle. We think death is a failure. They think death in combat is glorious. Thexler stood from his chair and walked to the main screen. Earth rotated below, beautiful and deadly. His forces held strategic positions on the surface, but they were bleeding. Slowly, steadily. Death by 1,000 cuts. And the humans were just getting started. How many humans have we killed, he asked. Commander Veshka checked her display. Estimated 18,000. And how many of our soldiers have they killed? 193, Admiral. The ratio should have been comforting. But Thexler did the math. Earth had 8 billion humans. The Dominion had deployed 30,000 troops in the initial invasion. If the casualty ratio remained 90-1, humans could trade their lives for Dominion lives until both sides were exhausted. And Earth would still have billions of humans left. The Dominion would have none. We need reinforcements, Thexler said quietly. Admiral? Commander Veshka looked shocked. For a primitive world? Send the request. Double the standard invasion force. I want 60,000 troops on the ground within a week. He turned to face his bridge crew. And someone find me a way to make them surrender. Because if they are willing to die to the last human, this conquest will cost us everything. Mevrin returned to her station and continued analyzing human communications. She found something that made her blood run cold. Intercepted messages between human governments. They were not discussing surrender. They were discussing how long they could sustain the resistance, how many casualties they could inflict, how much technology they could capture before the Dominion overwhelmed them. They were already planning for a long war, a war of years, maybe decades. They were preparing to lose billions and keep fighting. Because that was what humans did. They fought, and they never ever stopped fighting until they won or there was nothing left to fight with. She had tried to warn them. The humans had tried to warn them, but no one had listened. Now they would all learn the lesson the hard way. Earth was not going to be conquest number 847. Earth was going to be something else entirely, something the Dominion had never faced before, a species that treated war not as a last resort but as a natural state of existence. The battle for Earth had just begun, and already Mevrin knew how it would end. Not quickly, not cleanly. The Dominion would win eventually because they had superior technology, but the cost would be devastating. And humans would learn from every engagement, capturing technology, studying tactics, adapting and growing stronger. Even if the Dominion won this war, they would create something far more dangerous. A unified, battle-hardened humanity with stolen alien technology and 10,000 years of warfare expertise. Mevrin wondered if anyone in Dominion Command understood what they were building. An enemy that would remember, an enemy that would learn, an enemy that would eventually become strong enough to fight back. Not now, not soon, but eventually. The humans had warned them. We have never lived in peace. Approach with caution. The Dominion had approached without caution. Now they would pay the price for that mistake. The only question was how high that price would climb. 3 months had passed since the invasion began. Admiral Thexler stood in his private quarters, staring at casualty reports that made no sense. The numbers kept climbing. Every day, every hour. The Dominion controlled 23% of Earth's surface. It had cost them 4,218 soldiers. 4,000 dead for less than a quarter of one primitive planet. The reinforcements had arrived as requested. 60,000 troops, triple the standard invasion force for a world of Earth size. It had not been enough. He had requested more. Command had denied the request. Other conquests needed those forces. Earth was taking too long, costing too much. There were complaints. Quiet questions about Thexler's competence. Whispers that perhaps he had grown too cautious in his old age. A soft chime announced a visitor. "Enter," Thexler said. Mevrin stepped into his quarters. She looked exhausted. Her blue robes were stained and wrinkled. Her eyes had dark circles beneath them. She had been working without rest, trying to understand their enemy, trying to find weaknesses to exploit. "Admiral, I have completed my extended analysis. You need to see this." She activated a holographic display. Data filled the air between them. Charts and graphs and projections that painted a picture Thexler did not want to see. "Human casualties stand at approximately 2 million, Mevrin began. "Civilian and military combined. Dominion casualties are 4,218 dead, 7,693 wounded seriously enough to require evacuation. The ratio is approximately 475 to 1. That should be sustainable, but Thexler knew there was a but. There was always a but when Mevrin spoke these days. But human industrial capacity is increasing. They are producing weapons faster than we can destroy their factories. They build new facilities underground, in mountains, underwater. Every factory we destroy is replaced by 2 more within a week. And the weapons they are producing are getting better." She showed him images. Human soldiers carrying weapons that looked different from the ones they had used 3 months ago. Sleeker, more efficient. They are iterating designs based on what works against our shields. "This rifle was captured yesterday. It fires projectiles at twice the velocity of their earlier weapons. Our shields stop it, but they drain faster. A sustained assault from a dozen soldiers with these weapons can collapse a shield generator in 30 seconds. They are still primitives with chemical weapons. Yes, but they are primitives who learn fast, very fast. Look at this." The display changed. "This is a human tactical manual captured 2 months ago. This is one captured last week. They have completely revised their doctrine based on fighting us. New tactics, new strategies, new weapons. They are evolving their entire military structure in real time." Thexler studied the documents. The difference was startling. The first manual showed confused, disorganized responses to Dominion tactics. The second was sophisticated, detailing dozens of ways to counter energy shields, particle weapons, and armored vehicles. It read like it had been written by someone with decades of experience fighting the Dominion, not months. "How are they doing this?" "Because this is what they do, Admiral. This is what they have always done. Human military innovation does not happen over generations. It happens over weeks. They adapt faster than any species I have studied." Mevrin pulled up more data. "And they are capturing our technology. 3 supply convoys ambushed. 2 landing craft recovered and reverse engineered. A shield generator stolen from an outpost. They are studying everything we have, learning how it works, finding weaknesses. That is impossible. Their technology level is irrelevant, Admiral. They have 8 billion minds working on this problem. Do you know what we found in intercepted communications? Universities are canceling normal classes to focus on studying our technology. Their best scientists are working around the clock. Children are being taught mathematics using Dominion shield frequencies as examples. Their entire civilization is oriented toward defeating us." The hologram shifted to show something that made Thexler's blood run cold. A human soldier wearing armor that looked almost Dominion in design. Crude, obviously copied from captured gear, but functional. The soldier carried a weapon that glowed with energy. Not a particle beam, not yet, but something that used their captured power cells to superheat projectiles. When was this recorded? Yesterday. In a battle outside Sydney. The armor is not as good as ours, but it is better than anything they had 3 months ago. They are climbing the technology ladder, Admiral. Fast. And every day they climb higher. Thexler sat heavily in his chair. "How long?" "My projections show technological parity in 50 years if we maintain current occupation. 20 years if they continue capturing our equipment at the current rate, but that assumes we can maintain occupation." Mevrin's voice dropped. "Admiral, I do not think we can." "Explain." "We control 23% of Earth's surface, but only nominally. We hold cities, but humans control everything between cities. They own the roads, the forests, the mountains. Every supply convoy needs armed escort. Every patrol outside our secured zones faces ambush. We are not occupying Earth. We are besieged on Earth. The display showed a map of Dominion-controlled territory. Red dots marked human attacks over the last week. There were thousands. Constant pressure. Endless harassment. No rest, no peace. Thexler had thought controlling the cities would break human resistance. Instead, it had just changed the nature of the fight. And their morale? He asked, hoping for something positive. Mevrin shook her head. Improving. Admiral, this is the part that should frighten you most. Human morale is rising. 3 months into an invasion by a vastly superior force, and they are more motivated than when we arrived. That defies logic. It defies Dominion logic, not human logic. She pulled up intercepted broadcast, human news channels, radio programs, internet posts. They are treating this as their finest moment. They call it humanity's defining struggle. Their entertainment industry is producing films about the resistance, songs about fighting aliens, art showing humans defeating impossible odds. Children want to grow up to be resistance fighters. This war is not breaking them. It is uniting them in ways they have never been united before. Thexler watched a human broadcast, a young female speaking to a camera, her face dirty and tired but her voice strong. They thought we would surrender. They thought we were primitive, weak, divided. They were right about everything except the most important thing. They forgot that we are humans. And humans do not surrender. We fight, we adapt, we survive. And we will win this war no matter how long it takes, no matter what it costs. The broadcast ended with images of human soldiers fighting, children learning to use weapons, scientists working in hidden laboratories. Inspirational music played. It was propaganda, obviously, but effective propaganda. Thexler could see it in the faces. True belief, absolute conviction. These humans thought they could win. Against all logic and evidence, they believed victory was possible. They are insane, he whispered. No, Admiral. They are human. This is normal for them. You asked me to study their history. I did. Do you know what I found? 1,000 examples of humans defeating superior forces through sheer determination. Battles where outnumbered armies won through tactics and willpower. Wars where weaker nations prevailed over stronger ones. It is their pattern. It is what they do. Humans specialize in fighting enemies stronger than themselves. A message alert interrupted them. Commander Veshka's voice came through the comm. Admiral, you need to come to the bridge. We have a situation. Thexler and Mevrin hurried through the corridors. The bridge was in chaos when they arrived. Officers shouting, alarms blaring. On the main screen, a Dominion patrol ship drifted in orbit, dark and lifeless. Report, Thexler demanded. Admiral, patrol ship Morning Light stopped responding 30 minutes ago. We sent a recovery team. They found it abandoned. The entire crew is gone. Life support was shut down deliberately. And Commander Veshka hesitated. The ship has been stripped. Weapons, computers, power cores. Everything valuable has been removed. Pirates? But even as Thexler said it, he knew the answer. No, Admiral. Humans. We found a message painted on the bridge in human language. It says, thanks for the ship. We will make good use of it. The bridge fell silent. A ship. Humans had captured an entire Dominion ship. Not destroyed it, not damaged it. Captured it intact and stolen everything they could carry. It was both humiliating and terrifying. How? Thexler's voice was barely a whisper. Mevrin stepped forward, her expression grim. I warned you they were learning, Admiral. They must have infiltrated during a supply run or repair cycle. The patrol ship makes regular stops at the lunar base. Humans could have hidden aboard, waited for the right moment, then overwhelmed the crew with numbers. We need to find them. Find the humans who did this. Find the stolen equipment. Admiral, Mevrin said carefully. I do not think finding them is possible. They will have disappeared into Earth's population. 8 billion humans. How do we find a dozen among billions? And the equipment is already being studied by their scientists. By now, it is scattered. Across their planet in hidden laboratories we will never find. Then what do you suggest? Mevrin took a deep breath. I suggest we run projections based on current trends. Show you what happens if we continue this invasion. She activated the holographic display again. Equations filled the air. Casualty rates. Resource consumption. Technology transfer. The numbers ran forward, simulating years of continued occupation. The results appeared as a simple graph. 2 lines, one representing Dominion strength, one representing human strength. The lines approached each other, crossed, and then diverged, with humanity climbing higher. In 50 years, humans achieved technological parity, Mevrin said. In 75 years, they exceed our technology level because they innovate faster. In 100 years, humans begin counter-invasion of Dominion space with superior weapons and a unified, battle-hardened military force that has spent a century learning how to fight us. Speculation. Based on solid data, Admiral. Human innovation rate, resource allocation, population growth, industrial capacity. The numbers do not lie. If we stay on Earth, we create our own enemy. An enemy specifically evolved to fight the Dominion. An enemy that will remember we invaded their world. An enemy that will want revenge. Thexilor stared at the graph, watching the lines cross and diverge, victory turning into eventual defeat. Not in his lifetime, but inevitable. The Dominion would create their own destroyer, all because they had not listened to a simple warning. We have never lived in peace. Approach with caution. What is your recommendation, Scholar? Withdraw, Admiral. Accept the loss. Leave Earth before the cost becomes catastrophic. We have lost 4,000 soldiers and gained nothing. Every day we stay, we lose more. Every day we stay, humans learn more. The strategic choice is clear. The Dominion does not withdraw, Commander Veshka said, but her voice lacked conviction. Then the Dominion will face humanity in 100 years, Mevrin replied. And humanity will win. The bridge was silent. Officers looked at each other, uncertain. They had never withdrawn from a conquest before, not once in 847 attempts. Withdrawal meant failure. Failure meant disgrace. But continuing meant eventual destruction. Thexilor had never faced a choice like this. No admiral in Dominion history had faced a choice like this. He looked at Earth on the main screen, beautiful and deadly, and wondered how everything had gone so wrong. 6 months into the invasion, Admiral Thexilor requested a private communication channel with Dominion High Command. The conversation lasted 3 hours. When it ended, his hands were shaking. He had done something no admiral had done in 3,000 years of Dominion expansion. He had asked permission to withdraw from a conquest. The answer had been clear. Justify it. Prove it is necessary. Convince us or face court-martial for failure. Now he stood before a holographic council of the 5 high commanders, the most powerful beings in the Dominion. Their expressions were cold, disappointed, angry. Admiral Thexilor, High Commander Zexthar began, his voice sharp. You request withdrawal from Earth, a primitive world, a species that cannot even leave their own star system. Explain why the might of the Dominion cannot defeat chemical weapons and metal armor. Thexilor had prepared for this. He had rehearsed his arguments. But facing the council, feeling their judgment, his carefully planned speech felt inadequate. He gestured to activate his presentation. High Command, Earth is unlike any world we have encountered. The humans have inflicted 6,432 casualties in 6 months. We have killed nearly 4 million of them, yet their resistance grows stronger. We controlled 23% of their planet at a cost of 15 billion credits and counting. Every projection shows these costs increasing exponentially. Casualties are acceptable, High Commander Vreltha said. Every conquest has costs. Not like this. Thexilor pulled up comparison data. The last 20 conquests combined cost us fewer casualties than Earth has cost in 6 months. And High Command, we are not winning. We are surviving. Every outpost is under constant siege. Every patrol faces ambush. Every supply convoy requires armed escort. We do not occupy Earth. We cling to strategic positions while humans control everything else. He showed them tactical maps. Dominion positions were red dots, isolated in a sea of human-controlled territory. They let us hold the cities because cities are traps. We must defend static positions. They have mobility. They choose when and where to fight. We have superior technology, but they have 8 billion soldiers to draw from. We lose 6,000. They lose 4 million and do not care. The mathematics are simple. We cannot sustain a war of attrition with a species that outnumbers us thousands to 1. Then increase force deployment, High Commander Nixara said. Send more troops, more ships, overwhelm them. To achieve total occupation would require 80% of our entire military, Mevrin said. Thexler had brought her to the Council against protocol, but he needed her expertise, and even then, projections show continued resistance for decades. Humans have hidden weapons caches, underground bases, resistance networks that could sustain fighting for generations. They are prepared for a long war. We are not. Ridiculous. No primitive species. They are not a normal primitive species. Mevrin's voice rose. She caught herself, took a breath, and continued more calmly. High Command, I have studied them for 6 months. Analyzed their history, their culture, their psychology. Humans are fundamentally different. War is not something that happens to them. It is what they are. They have institutional knowledge of warfare going back 10,000 years. They teach their children military history. They study failed tactics and successful strategies. They write books analyzing why battles were won or lost. They are a species-wide military academy. She pulled up cultural data, and they are learning from us. Captured weapons, stolen technology, intercepted communications. Human scientists are reverse engineering everything we have. Their innovation rate is 15 times faster than any species we have encountered. In 6 months, they have made technological advances that should take decades. One of the counselors leaned forward. Show us these advances. Mevrin displayed images. Human soldiers wearing improvised armor that mimicked Dominion designs. Weapons that used captured power cells. Vehicles with stolen shield generators. This was taken last week. That armor is 80% as effective as our standard combat gear. That weapon has 70% of our particle beam's power output. They built these things in underground factories using materials they mined from destroyed Dominion equipment. They are climbing the technology ladder faster than any species in recorded history. Let them climb, High Commander Zexthar said. They are still generations behind us. 50 years, not generations, Thexilor corrected. My analysts project technological parity in 50 years if we maintain occupation. 20 years if they continue capturing equipment at current rates. And High Command, that assumes we can maintain occupation. I do not believe we can. Not without committing forces we cannot spare. He pulled up operational reports from across Dominion space. We have 14 other active conquest operations. 73 worlds under occupation that require garrison forces. Border disputes with the Krell Empire. Trade route protection. If we commit 80% of our military to Earth, we lose everywhere else. Our entire empire becomes vulnerable. One primitive world would bring down 3,000 years of expansion. The council was silent. Thexler pressed his advantage. And if we somehow succeed, if we spend decades and countless lives to fully occupy Earth, what do we gain? A hostile population that will require permanent military presence. Humans do not forgive. They do not forget. We found records of human conflicts from thousands of years ago that they still remember, still teach, still celebrate or mourn. If we conquer them, they will resist for centuries. We will spend more resources keeping them down than we would gain from the conquest. You paint a dire picture, Admiral, High Commander Vreltha said, but I see another possibility. Total extermination. If humans are this dangerous, we should eliminate them entirely. Orbital bombardment. Make Earth uninhabitable. Remove the threat permanently. Thexler felt cold horror at the suggestion. He had considered it himself in dark moments when the casualty reports came in. But Mevrin stepped forward, her voice urgent. High Command, that would be the worst possible decision. Humanity is not confined to Earth. They have small colonies on their moon and on a nearby planet they call Mars. Scientific outposts, research stations. If we exterminate Earth, those survivors become our worst nightmare. Humans with nothing to lose. Humans with a genocide to avenge. Humans who will spend generations preparing to destroy us. And they will tell other species what we did. Turn the galaxy against us. We would create martyrs and unite other primitives against the Dominion. She is correct, Thexler added. Genocide would be strategically catastrophic. But there is another option. Withdrawal with negotiation. Offer peace terms. Establish trade relations. Turn potential enemies into reluctant partners. The Dominion does not negotiate with primitives. Then perhaps the Dominion needs to adapt. As humans have adapted. Thexilor straightened his shoulders. High Command, I have served the Dominion for 40 years. Commanded successful conquests of 63 worlds. I understand military strategy and cost-benefit analysis. Earth cannot be conquered at acceptable cost. But we can end the war without complete loss. We can withdraw with some dignity intact, establish peaceful relations and monitor them from a distance. Or we can continue bleeding resources and lives for pride until either we break or they break us. The council members looked at each other. Silent communication passed between them. Finally, High Commander Zexthar spoke. Contact the humans. See if they will negotiate. But Admiral, if negotiations fail, you will prosecute this war with maximum force. If we cannot have peace, we will have victory no matter the cost. Understood? Yes, High Command. The holographic connection ended. Thexler stood alone in his quarters with Mevrin. She looked exhausted but relieved. You convinced them. I convinced them to try. Now we must convince the humans. Thexler activated the communications console. Prepare a message to Earth leadership. Request negotiations for peaceful resolution of hostilities. The message was sent. The response came within an hour. Not from one government, but from all of them. A unified human council had formed during the invasion, representing every nation on Earth. They agreed to negotiate, but their preliminary demands made Thexler's chest tighten. Complete withdrawal of all Dominion forces from Earth and the Sol system, formal recognition of Earth sovereignty, non-aggression pact, trade agreements on equal terms, return of all captured humans, compensation for damages inflicted, and one more thing, embassy exchanges, full diplomatic relations, introduction to other species in the galaxy. They dictate terms to us, Commander Veshika said, reading the demands. After we defeated them. Did we defeat them? Mevrin asked quietly. We killed millions and captured cities, but we did not break their will. We did not stop their resistance. We did not achieve our objective. By any objective measure, this is a stalemate at best. Thexler studied the demands. They were reasonable, actually. More reasonable than he had expected. Humans could have demanded reparations that would bankrupt the Dominion. They could have insisted on technology transfers or territorial concessions. Instead, they asked for recognition, peace, and a seat at the galactic table. They wanted to be equals, not subjects. It was almost admirable. Accept the terms, he said. All of them. Withdraw our forces with dignity. We can claim we achieved our objective of bringing them into the galactic community, just through diplomacy rather than conquest. Over the next 3 weeks, Dominion forces withdrew from Earth. Outpost by outpost, city by city, human forces watched them go, weapons ready but silent. No final battles. No desperate last stands. Just a quiet, tense retreat. Ships loaded with wounded soldiers and damaged equipment returned to the fleet. Thexler watched it all from his bridge, feeling both relief and shame. On the final day, he stood before the view screen as the last landing craft lifted off from Earth. The planet rotated below, scarred but unbroken. Cities showed damage from 6 months of war, but lights still glowed. Life continued. Humans continued. They had survived the Dominion, and everyone in the galaxy would soon know it. Set course for home, Thexler ordered. Standard speed. But before they could leave, a communication came from Earth. A human face appeared on the screen. An older male with gray hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of stress and hard decisions. He wore a military uniform decorated with symbols Thexler did not recognize. Admiral Thexler, I am General Chen of the United Earth Defense Council. Before you go, I want to say something. Thexler nodded. Speak. Thank you. The Admiral's eyes widened in surprise. For what? Invading your world? Killing millions? For uniting us. The General's expression was complex, mixing sorrow and satisfaction. For 6 months, humanity had a common enemy. We learned to work together, shared resources, coordinated strategies. Nations that had been enemies for centuries fought side by side. You did something we could never do ourselves. You made us realize we are one species, one people. The nations of Earth still exist, but we are also, finally, humanity. The General paused, then continued. And thank you for teaching us. We learned about war in space, about energy shields and particle weapons, about your tactics and strategies. We learned what kind of threats exist in the galaxy. You came here to conquer, but you also gave us the greatest gift possible. You showed us we are not alone, and you showed us we can fight, we can survive, we can win. So thank you, Admiral. We will remember this lesson. The communication ended. Thexler stared at the blank screen. Around him, the bridge crew was silent. They had just been thanked. by the species they tried to conquer, by the people they killed by the millions. And the thanks was genuine. The humans meant it. They were grateful for the invasion because it made them stronger. "They are insane," Commander Veshka whispered. "No," Mevrin said. "They are human, and they just told us exactly what they will do next. They will use what they learned. They will prepare. They will build ships and weapons and train soldiers, and one day they will leave Earth. They will spread across the galaxy, and everyone will know they defeated the Dominion." Thexler opened his personal log and began typing his final report on Earth. He classified it at the highest level and marked it for permanent archive. Future generations needed to understand what happened here. They needed to know about the species that said no to the Dominion. He wrote, "Civilization, humanity. Planet Earth status independent. Threat assessment extreme. Recommendation, quarantine. Monitor from distance. Establish peaceful relations. Share intelligence with allied species. Under no circumstances provoke. Under no circumstances invade." They warned us. They said they had never known peace. They said approach with caution. We did not listen. We paid the price. Let this record stand as warning. Humanity is dangerous not despite their primitive technology but because of their nature. They are warriors, all of them, and they are learning. Leave them alone. Let them join the galactic community as equals, because the alternative is creating an enemy that will eventually destroy us. He saved the file and transmitted it to Dominion archives. Then he added one personal note, unclassified, that every Dominion citizen could read. Earth offered peace. We offered conquest. They chose neither. They chose resistance. And in the end they won, not through technology or superior forces, but through will. Remember this. Humans fight like we breathe. Naturally, constantly, brilliantly. They are the galaxy's newest species, but they may also become its most dangerous. Approach with caution. Approach with respect, above all. Approach with the understanding that if you fight humanity, you will pay a price beyond any you have paid before. The eternal supremacy turned and accelerated away from Earth. Behind them, the blue planet grew smaller. Lights began to appear on the surface as night fell across continents. Cities rebuilding, people continuing, life going on. And in orbital shipyards, Thexler's sensors detected new construction beginning. Human ships, built from captured Dominion technology and human ingenuity. Small ships, primitive ships, but ships nonetheless. Humanity was going to the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same. Somewhere on Earth, in a hidden laboratory, scientists studied a Dominion shield generator. Somewhere else, military officers analyzed recordings of Dominion tactics. In universities, students learned mathematics using alien technology as examples. Children played games about the invasion, pretending to be resistance fighters. Songs played on radios about humanity's victory. History books were being written about the day the aliens came and left defeated. Earth remembered. Earth learned. Earth prepared. The Dominion had set its sights on Earth, expecting easy conquest. One warning from Earth had changed everything. Now Earth had its sights set on the galaxy. And the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The humans had warned them. We have never lived in peace. The Dominion had not listened. Now everyone would learn why that warning mattered. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually, inevitably, humanity was coming. And when they arrived among the stars, they would arrive as equals, or conquerors. It would be the galaxy's choice how to receive them. Thexler looked at the stars ahead and wondered which future would come to pass. He hoped for peace. But he knew humans, and he suspected the galaxy had not seen the last of Earth's warriors. This was not an ending. It was a beginning, the beginning of humanity's age in the cosmos, and that thought filled him with both hope and terror.